Hello there. Today we're going to talk about response, where you can think of response in two different ways. A lot of times we think of it as first responders responding to a car accident or shots fired or, um, those 911 calls. Those are things that happen every single day, multiple times a day. But then we can think of response on a much bigger scale in our cycle of disaster management and emergency management. This is the response to the tornado, to the hurricane, to the wildfire, to the flooding, to the terrorist attack, those types of incidents. And so that's what we're going to talk about when we're talking about response here. Not necessarily first responders. We're going to talk about their role in a major disaster, but not necessarily their day-to-day response. So, but keep that in mind because we'll build on everything. So I'm not going to go through this lecture in its entirety. Make sure you flip to the next page in the module and you read through the PowerPoint yourself. But I do want to hit the highlights because there's a couple important things here that I wanted to explain to you. So our objectives want to focus on the definition of response, ICS and NIMS, know that there's the National Response Framework, and what I really want to dig into is Incident Command, Unified Command, Area Command, and then the difference between the Incident Command Post and the Operations Center. So real quickly, let's define response. We've defined all the other phases. Let's define this one. It's the immediate action taken to reduce the loss of life, damage to property, and damage to the environment. The goal of response is to stabilize the incident. So here's where that number one goal in emergency management comes into play. Response is when we're doing those things immediately to reduce the loss of life, the damage to property. We want to stabilize the incident so that we can move on to recovery. So immediate actions would be search and rescue, firefighting, putting security in place, water rescue for flooding, those types of things to save lives. And so that's what we're talking about here. I'm going to skip down a few slides because I want to get into incident command and incident command structure. So again, make sure you go back and you read these slides about the history of incident command. Quickly, the difference between NIMS and ICS. So ICS, you're going to read, was developed in the 70s by firefighters who were fighting wildland fires. ICS is the structure of people on the scene. You've got an incident commander, you've got your branches, and then you've got the people that report up to those. It's on scene, it's very tactical. It's put in place for short range. It's getting to that incident stabilization. NIMS, on the other hand, is a very broad framework that the national government has put out in terms of guiding emergency management, disaster response. And it lays out the best practices, the whole community concept. It supports the incident command structure as the national standard for how we respond to major disasters. It helps us to lean forward through disasters, looking a day ahead, a week ahead, a month ahead even. And it really helps the state and federal government coordinate, especially when we get into disasters that are going to lead to a presidential disaster declaration. So let's talk specifically about ICS here. Three different kinds of command. You've got single incident command, unified command, and area command. Single incident command is where there is something's happened and there's one agency that's primarily responsible for it. So think about a house fire or an apartment complex fire. It's going to be a lot of resources, and EMS are going to help and police are going to help secure the scene, but firefighters are in control. It's a single incident, it's a fire, there's one agency in control of what's happening. The others are supporting. So they're the incident commander, they're running the operations and the tactics of the incident. When we talk about unified command, we're talking about multiple agencies making a decision together, acting as command together. So it's a good example is at events. We do this all the time. In our incident command post at the events, we have a police officer, a firefighter, a medical person, a venue person, and we're all in the same room doing dispatch, taking care of things together, making decisions together. That's unified command, where not one agency is in charge. Multiple agencies are in charge and they're making that decision collectively. So for larger incidents, like a tornado in a community, you're going to have unified command, where the police and fire and public works are all going to work together, making decisions together. Area command is even broader. Think hurricanes, think wildfires, where you might have to have multiple command posts in different areas, all kind of structured under one single command. And so this is a good example for, say, a hurricane that's hitting the East Coast. You've got a command post in DC, you've got a command post in New Jersey, you've got a command post in Massachusetts. And those command posts can then work together in their regions and track everything they need to and submit that up the chain to one single command post so that everything for the response of the incident is handled. So area command is when we're talking about a very large geographical area. Maybe it's the state of California with these wildfires. Maybe it's Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama that got hit by a hurricane. So think about those differences. Make sure you know those differences in the three different types of command. Now, I want to talk quickly about the incident command post. The incident command post is the field location. It's out at the scene of the incident or near the scene of the incident. If a town is destroyed by a tornado, it might be at a church nearby. It might be at a community center nearby. It might be at a local school, somewhere safe, but out in the field. It's that tactical location on scene of the incident. This is where the ICS structure is. This is the incident commander and the ops section chief and the planning section chief and all those things you learned about in the incident command course that you took. So that's where these folks are. This is tactical. This is the bottom of that pyramid that we've been talking about all semester. Lots of people on the ground working on this incident. And it might look something like this. So this is an incident command post where you've got people in different colored vests. These are mostly orange. You can see a yellow in the back, working in different sections: planning, operations, logistics, finance. And they're working, they're near the scene. Maybe this is a hotel conference room, is kind of how it looks. And they're working together to manage the incident. Conversely to that, we're going to talk about an emergency operations center. The operations center is a location where coordination of information and resources happens to support the local incident command post and the local incident management activities. So your incident command post is on the scene. The operations center is for maybe the county or for the state. And that's a point of coordination so that if things are happening in various areas, all the resources can be requested through the Operations Center. They can help get additional resources from other communities and help support the incident command post and the tactical folks on the ground. You can organize Operations Center a couple different ways. It might be by agency for small incidents. For events, that's kind of how we organize. We have an operations center for the state fair, and we organize by agency. So the state police sergeant, he's in charge of the police, and the battalion chief from the fire department, he's in charge of the firefighters, and the shift lieutenant from EMS is they're in charge of the medical direction. As the venue side, our interns, they're in charge of our venue. So we organize by agency. Larger operations center, what's happening right now with COVID-19 response, are operating under ESFs or emergency support functions. So that means there's a transportation function and somebody's helping to fill that role in all those requests. Naturally, that's the Department of Transportation. There's a public safety function, emergency support function, and so that is filled by state police here in the state of Indiana. And so there's 15 different emergency support functions. And the next module that of response, that's what you're going to focus on, is these emergency response functions, who they are, how they operate, and why they're important. And so that's how most operation centers are organized for large cities and for the state. But small rural counties and a lot of events organized by agency. And remember, this is an off-site location. This is not at the incident scene at the event. So here's a photo of an operations center. I believe this is Ohio and their state operations center. In the middle, you can see where they would have like their planning and ops chiefs. And then on the outside is where the ESFs would sit. and where they would work on the logistics of the response. And then there's some conference rooms to have meetings and things like that between the command staff. So that's really what I wanted to hit on in this video. Again, please make sure you go through and you read the rest of this PowerPoint on the next slide. The information in it is going to be important for